North Point. Hey, you may or may not know that we have been in a series titled Merryoke, where we've been taking a unique look at some of our favorite Christmas songs. So what I decided to do is to go around to our campuses to test your knowledge on some of our favorite Christmas music.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la.
'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la.
It's the best time of the year.
Oh my golly, have a holly jolly Christmas this year.
You really are a heel. You're a
Cuddly as the cactus.
Oh, you got it. That was good.
Frosty the Snowman was a happy, jolly soul.
With a corncob pipe and a... I don't know, that's all I got.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
Frosty the Snowman was a happy, jolly soul.
With a corncob pipe and a button nose and two eyes made out of coal.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year.
I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
Oh, spero año felicidad.
Well, I heard some of you singing along. And if they would have done I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, I would have nailed it too, because that is a classic in the Martz household. But hey, I want to say welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us today. And I want to welcome everyone online at our campuses. We got a group from Straight Street. I want to say welcome. Great to have you. So good to have you. Well, I will say this. I can't get going before I talk about yesterday, where yesterday we had our Christmas give back party at our Dream Center. And I know so many of you were involved, whether it was from picking up gifts and bringing those in, whether it was serving yesterday. It was incredible. And one of the best things was being able to say yes to so many families who are in need this Christmas, and none of that would have been possible without your generosity. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. We get to serve a little over 500 kids yesterday just at this campus. Yes. And we get to keep saying yes, right? We got more supplies than we ever received at this campus, which allowed us just to keep saying yes, where we had, I think, 13 families showed up that didn't sign up, and we were just like, we are confident that we've got supplies for you. So come on through, because your guys' generosity was wild. And thank you, North Point, for not just talking the talk, you truly walk the walk. And I remember 11 years ago when I showed up to North Point for the very first time, and I remember our lead pastor, Jeremy, he said what happens inside these four walls is not nearly as important as what happens outside these four walls. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I believe that. And then I went to a give back event, and I couldn't deny it. I was like, yes, you all believe that. And ever since, I was like, I want to be a North Pointer. How do I be like you? And it's great because people every single week, they ask me, they're like, how do I become a North Pointer? Is there like a membership class I got to take? Do I have to like sign a covenant where I won't cuss on Sundays unless the Chiefs are playing? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to be a North Pointer? And here's what I love is I'm like, if you call North Point home and you want to be a North Pointer, then you is one, all right? That's it. Like, we need everybody on this mission. So go ahead, there's room, hop on, let's do this, right? Our community is so important that we need everybody. And so from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for being incredible. Thank you for changing my life for the past 11 years. And so here I am, 11 years later, and we're in a Christmas series called Merryoke Christmas. Who would have thought, all right? And so what we're doing is we're taking these Christmas songs and we're having our own little karaoke twist to that. And so we just heard a song, Do You Hear What I Hear? Which, did you? Did you hear it? Did you hear some of those lyrics? Because I've heard that song like 100 times and I did not know those lyrics. Like, That was not like a cute Christmas song that is nice and tidy and fills me with joy. That was different. That was hard to listen to a little bit. Like, you're talking about a shepherd boy pleading with a king who's warm in his kingdom while children shiver in the night. I'm like, what? That's not what I remember hearing out of that story. And here's the deal, right? We can see something 100 times. We can read something 100 times, and then we really look at it, and now we can't see it differently ever since then. So one of the things we're looking at today is that nativity story. We talked about it a little bit last week, of the birth of Jesus. And despite what Hallmark would tell you, it was not a cute story, right? It was not a room-temperatured manger that was sterile and very clean and everything just happened according to plan and it was perfect. No! It was completely different. It was messy. It was scary. Plans changed. It wasn't at all what anybody had expected, and there was a lot of fear involved in that original story. And so today, here's what we want to look at. We want to look at what role does fear have to play in that original story? What role does fear have to play in our lives this Christmas? And for all of us, here's what I know. I know we've got some fears, right? If you can, throw out something you're afraid of. Can I hear? Get anything? Snakes, abandonment, pain. I think I heard somebody say my wife. I agree. No, we got all these fears, right? We got fears of planes and fears of spiders and fears of heights and like fears that some sixth grader is going to realize that my name John Martz rhymes with John Farts, and that's going to be my nickname all middle school, high school. Like that's like I'm just kidding. That wasn't my nickname. There was actually much more creative sixth graders in my sixth grade class, and John Farts was the least of it. It was more like John Sharts, but that's okay. And I did not get that nickname because it happened, okay? I'm just going to let you know. But here's what I know. You have very, very rational fears. Sometimes we have very rational fears. Sometimes we have very irrational fears. We got fears all over the place. Like maybe you've even heard of like FOMO, fear of missing out. Anybody got that? Fear of missing out. This is probably one of the fears I don't have, okay? I don't have FOMO. I got JOMO. I'm like, anytime like plans are canceled, I'm like, yes! Like your kid's sick and you can't come over? Bummer. Oh, no, let's get a movie going. I'm getting my Snuggie on. This is going to be, like, we're in for the night. This is nice, okay? But here's what I know. All of us, we got fears. We got fears. We all probably can think of somebody where fear runs their life. We can all probably think of somebody where it affects their decisions, it affects their relationships. Maybe for some of us, that person we think of is us. We can all probably think of somebody who we feel like is really good at overcoming fear. We could all probably think of people who cope with fear worse than others. Like fear is going to be a part of all of our lives, and it plays this pivotal role. And when I think about fear is one of these things that it's motivated my decision making. Like sometimes I'm so scared to make a decision, but I'll eventually make the decision when I feel like the fear of not making the decision is worse than actually making the decision, and then I'll make the decision. I'm like, my whole thinking is based on fear. And growing up, there was something that motivated me more than anything else, and it was something I was very afraid of, okay? And it affected a lot of my decision making, and it was this bad boy right here, okay? Anybody know what this is? Somebody say fly swatter? No, this in the Martz household, I never once saw my parents kill a fly with this. This was known as a butt swatter in my household, okay? And I see some parents taking notes right here, okay? And every parent has a weapon of choice, right? They've got a spoon, you got a stick. Some parent timeout. I feel like that's not as effective. Sorry. But here we go. Like, I had one of these things. And if you want to shape a young boy into this angel you see today with lots of unresolved trauma, then you would use something like this, right? And I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, man, you got it easy. That doesn't look that bad. No. First off, no, we wouldn't. No, not like this. No, they'd flip it around and they'd use this side. And this is the one that really gets it going, okay? And it was painful. And here's the deal. I've never been blessed with anything close to bodacious back here, but they wouldn't get me anywhere I had any padding. They'd get me like right down here, and I feel like some of you don't think this would hurt. Can I get a volunteer? Like, no, this thing hurt. All right, and here's the deal. This thing motivated a lot of my decision making growing up. Anytime I had something slightly witty to say at the dinner table, I would just say it under my breath because I didn't want to get Swatted, right? Anytime my parents told me to clean my room, and I'm like, yeah, but your room's not clean. Like, right? I would not say that because of this. Anytime, like this is the reason I couldn't slap my older sister in public. I'd do it in private where they couldn't prove who started it, okay? But no, this sucker, this thing motivated me. And every time I look at it, even today, it elicits some feelings when I see it. I was like, oh, I got some feelings around this. And so one of the first things I've written down when it comes to fear is that fear is often based on feelings, not facts. Fear. It's often based on feelings, not facts. And just because it's a feeling, though, it doesn't mean that it's not very, very real. But I do know that feelings are sometimes an exaggerator, right? Feelings make a paper cut feel like, your finger's falling off, or feelings make stepping on a Lego in the middle of the night feel like a bear trap, right? Like they exaggerate something going on. It's not always practical, it's not always logical, but you still feel it, so it's still very, very real. And actually, there's a study done from the University of Michigan when it talks about fear, and this is some of the data they came up with when it comes to fear in our lives. This says 60% of our fears are unwarranted. They're irrational. They will never, ever happen in your life. 20% of your fears, they're in the past. So they've already taken place, and guess what? You didn't die, okay? 10% of your fear is of dying, and spoiler alert, you will. So 6% of your fears, they're petty. Even if they happen, they wouldn't even affect your day, but we're still scared of them. And then here's what they have. They have 4% of your fears are justifiable. If they happened, it would alter your life significantly. And so here's what we find with the data. Is that 4% of our fears are facts. And about 96% of our fears are based on feelings. And even though it's based on a feeling, it does not mean that it's not real. Okay, I'm not like, man, you shouldn't have fears because it's just a feeling. I'm like, no, it is very, very real, but we have to remember that it is a feeling. And here's the deal. When it comes to feelings, I've heard the expression, feelings are like kids in a car, right? You don't let them drive, but you don't stick them in the trunk, right? You don't let them affect every decision that you make, but you don't ignore them. And I like that, like feelings are like kids in a car. I wrote down something else. I think feelings are more like farts. I think it hurts when you hold them in. Some clear the room, some are silent. But it's important and natural that they come out in an appropriate and safe place. And my son has not learned that about feelings or farts. And so pray for him. But no, this is like feelings. This is what it is, right? It's a feeling. And I grew up in the type of culture that was like, okay, because it's a feeling, well then you don't need to feel it. It was like I grew up in the type of culture is like you should not have a spirit of fear. You shouldn't have fear. In fact, in scripture, it says fear not 365 times. That's one for every single day of the year. And I'm like, I love that. I write that in my journal. I still feel fear. It did not eradicate fear in my life. And so today, my goal is not to get rid of fear in your life. My goal is to look at fear. What type of role did fear play in that original Christmas story? What type of role does fear play in our life this Christmas? And how do we feel the fear, but we don't let us paralyze us from taking a next step? And so my prayer today is not that you tiptoe safely into your grave. Like, that's not the goal. Like, I truly believe that there is something bigger for you. Like, I want you to have anything but a boring, old, comfortable, mundane life. I want you to have the type of life where your grandkids sit next to you and they're like, tell me that story again. I want to hear it because it was crazy. And you're like, yeah, I know, it was great. Like, I want you to have that kind of life. We don't want a boring old life. I believe you can have something so much better. And so today, as we look at this Christmas story, okay, we're going to be looking at a book of Matthew, which Matthew is one of the Gospels. We got Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, these 4 Gospels. What they are is each are different accounts of really Jesus's life. Some talk about his birth, some talk about his death, some talk about the miracles he performed. And all 4 of these stories, written by different people at different times, are painting this bigger picture, this bigger story of what Jesus looked like and how that impacted humanity. And so there's a couple things that we see that Christmas that I think are important for us this Christmas. And so let's start reading. It says this in Matthew. It says, "This is how Jesus the Messiah was born. His mother Mary was engaged to be married to Joseph, but before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit." Okay. Anybody ever heard that Christmas story before? You ever heard that? Yeah, popular story. I think because we've heard it like 100 times, we surpass how crazy that is. Is that crazy? Like that is wild. To put it in perspective today, what if we turned on the TV and we were watching Teen Mom and there's a 16-year-old that's like, "I know I'm pregnant, but I promise I didn't sleep with anybody." You'd be like, baloney. Okay, I don't believe that. No way. Seriously, you're sticking with that story? Seriously? Like, I know how kids are made. Seriously? Like, seriously? Like, that is a crazy story. And we read it because we've heard it and we're just like, yeah, okay. Like, think about that. It is wild. It is crazy. And if we keep reading, it says this. It says, "Joseph, to whom Mary was engaged, he was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly, so he decided to break the engagement quietly. And as he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, 'Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child within her was conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she'll have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins.'" Crazy story. Some of us, when we picture this, we're like, nah, classic story, right? It's a classic story. Boy meets girl. Joseph meets Mary. They're engaged to be married. It's going to be awesome. They probably got a house picked out, right? They might get a dog. It's going to be so great. They're not going to have kids yet. They're probably going to wait 5 years. They're going to travel for a little bit, just really enjoy being married. No. They had all these plans. They had all these dreams. They had all these ideas of how life was going to look peaceful, quiet. Nothing like that. It went nothing like that. And so next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about Mary, but this week I want to focus a little bit more on Joseph. Think about a dude who's been put in a situation and he sees the situation. He's like, "I think I'm out." And then an angel appears to him and is like, "Hey, this is bigger than you." And he's like, "I don't know what to do." And so here's the deal. One thing I've written down is this, that something we learned that Christmas that'll be helpful for us this Christmas, is that sometimes our biggest challenge to insight can be our eyesight. Sometimes the biggest challenge to our insight, something we know to be true, can be our eyesight, just something that we see right now. In what area of your life have you been trusting your eyesight, but you know something different through your insight? And fear, that's what fear is. A lot of times fear starts with what you see. And then all you can see becomes your reality. And then your reality is all that you can comprehend. And you don't know how to see past it. And so for some of you, here's what I know. Like some of you are in marriages that you feel like are doomed. Some of you got family units that are split apart and there's just conflict and there's there's no peace and you don't know how this is going to work out. And all you can see with your eyes is that I don't know how to fix this thing. It's bigger than me. I don't know what to do, but you've got this insight where you're like, I know there's a God that redeems, he restores. He can bring peace in this unpeaceful situation, but I don't know how it's going to look and I don't know what to do about it. Yeah. For some of you, this is financially. This is the season where you're like, I don't know how we're going to make ends meet. I don't know what to do. I don't know where it's going to come from. All I can see is what's right in front of me with my eyes, and this isn't going to work. But you know that you've got a God that cares about you, that's for you, that's with you, and you're just like, and I know I'm supposed to be a good steward of what he's given me, and he'll always give me enough, and I just and you're battling between this, like, this is what I see, but this is what I know. For some of you, it might be a doctor's report. And it's all you think about. It's all you talk about. It consumes every single waking minute of your life, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how to hold it. But you believe you've been called to be a light. And as long as you've got breath and you've got purpose, and you know this, but all you can see is this over here. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to our insight can be our eyesight. And I've seen this time and time again. I think this is the thing that a lot of people overcome when they choose to make Jesus the leader of their life. When they choose to say, okay, or go public with their faith, and they hop in the baptism tank and they're just like, here's what I know. I know this. I know I'm messed up. I know I can't do this on my own. I know I'm not good enough, but I'm trusting in something bigger than me, something I can't see right now, but I just have to believe that there's a bigger plan going on, and I got to get it out of my hands into his hands. And that's the ultimate question. Joseph was faced with it. Honestly, we're faced with it today. It's what do we put our security in? Our insight or our eyesight? And so one of the things I've written down when it comes to fear is this, that insecurity is putting security in the wrong thing. That's insecurity. Insecurity is putting security in the wrong thing. Are you going to put security in your insight or in your eyesight? And so Joseph, he's in this situation. He's got some very rational fears. He's like, if I go through with this, my reputation is ruined. If I go through with this, I'm not even promised that I'm going to have like a really great marriage with Mary. I don't know. It might be easier to just restart with somebody else. Like if I go through with this, I'm going to be disowned by my family because an angel didn't appear to them. The angel only appeared to me. Like he has some very rational fears. And it's like, okay, am I going to trust my insight or my eyesight? Because there's an angel that appeared to me and said I can be a part of a bigger plan. And here's what the angel actually, he keeps going. This is what it says. It says, all of this occurred to fulfill the Lord's message through his prophet. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She'll give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which is God with us. And so this is the insight that Joseph gets. It's you have an opportunity to be a part of a bigger story, something that's been in the works hundreds and hundreds of years. Are you in? And he's scared. Yeah, I don't know. And so the question is, does he want to see things through his perspective or God's perspective? In fact, this is a fascinating passage because all the New Testament, it's written in Greek or Aramaic. But this little portion right here is a portion in Hebrew. And it's because what the angel is doing, he's referencing a verse in Isaiah, which is in the Old Testament, who's a prophet. And he hones in on this concept called aharit, which aharit just means seeing the full picture. It's not your way, it's not my way, it's his way, and it's a higher way. It's not seeing things through your perspective, it's seeing things through God's perspective. It's a bigger, better perspective. And so what Joseph gets an opportunity here through this aharit, through this, what this angel is saying, Joseph would get this right away of like, here's the angel saying, do you want to see things through your perspective? Or do you want to choose to see things through God's perspective? And you get a choice. And so one of the things that this insight that Joseph gets, that I think is great insight for us as well, and I have it written down this way, is that Joseph didn't feel Jesus initially, but he saw him eventually. Even though Joseph didn't feel Jesus initially, he saw him eventually. And I know for a lot of situations, we're in a spot where we're doing the right thing, and we're just like, man, I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing the right thing, but I don't feel God near me. Wow. It doesn't change the fact that he's Emmanuel, God with us. He's with you. And this is probably going to blow some of your minds as well. Like, even if you don't choose to have God's perspective and you choose to do your perspective and you choose to live your own life and you choose to do your own things and you choose to pick your own way, he's still with you. Some of you needed to hear that because you're parents and you got kids that are living their own journey. And you're like, no, I need to fit. And it's like, here's the deal. He is still with them. That doesn't remove the consequences of their decisions. It certainly doesn't make their life any easier. It's probably going to make their life harder. But guess what? He's still with you. Whether you feel like you're on the straight and narrow and you're walking the right path, he is with you. Whether you feel like you're living your own life and you're the leader of your life and you're making all your own decisions, he's still with you. It might be a little harder, but he's with you. And here's what you get to remember, that today for all of us, here's what we're doing. We are writing a story. We are writing a story that we are one day going to tell. And sometimes all we can see is what's right in front of us. Some of us, we're writing a story of what it looks like to overcome addiction. We're like, I don't know what to do. All I can see is what's right in front of me. I just focus on the next 24 hours, the next 24 hours, the next 24 hours. And here's what I just believe, that your mess is one day going to be a message. Because all you've got is your little perspective, but you got God's perspective. It's like, I see the full picture. Like, this is real. For some of us, when it comes to this, we're writing a story of what it looks like to be a Christian in a non-Christian work environment. And we're like, I don't even know if I'm making a difference. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. Should I just quit and work for the church? No, you definitely shouldn't. You are the church. You're doing it. You're in it right now. You have been perfectly positioned to make the type of impact God wants you to make right now, right where you're at. Even if you don't feel him right now, he's with you. You will see it eventually. For some of you, maybe this is your first Christmas without somebody. Whether that's a decision you made that caused some distance, whether that's through divorce, whether that's through death, and you feel lonely, and you feel isolated, and you feel like nobody cares. Like I gotta remind you, there's a God that even though you don't feel him initially, you'll see him eventually. He is with you through your pain. He's with you through your loneliness. He's with you through your isolation. Don't you dare for 1 second feel like you're alone. He's with you. And I pray this week you be able to feel that. I pray that become very real to you. Even when you feel like you're all alone, he's Emmanuel. He's God with us. It's good news. There was a time where Mel and I, my wife, a few years back before we had kids, we signed up to help out at the Dream Center. And so what we did was we would bus kids from Dream Center after the Wednesday night meal. We'd take them to students. And so we had, we'd stuff like 12 kids into, 2 cars. And you can't put kids in the trunk, but you can put teens in the trunk, okay? And so we would do that. And we'd bus them all over here. And, we'd pick them up. And after every single Wednesday night, if you got teens, we would ask, what did you learn? And they're teens. So they'd say, nothing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so we did this week after week, month after month, like a year of doing this. And we're like, every single week we'd pick them up and we'd be like, what'd you learn? And they'd be like, nothing. And then they'd talk about boys and they'd talk about the food they ate. And I'm like, oh my word, okay. So, well, all right. And I remember, I looked to Mel, I'm like, why are we doing this? Does this even matter? I think we should stop. I'm like, this is I don't know. And I'll never forget, the very next week we were taking the teens home and there was one of the gals who was singing in the back seat, and she started usually the song she'd sing, I'd have to put on my earmuffs because I'm not allowed to hear those words. But this song she was singing was a worship song. And you could see her kind of tearing up in the back. And I'm like, I cannot believe for a second that even though I didn't feel God initially, I'm like, he's with them. He's working. He's moving. There is something bigger going on, and I can't believe I trusted what I saw right in front of me. And that almost stopped me from being obedient to what I feel like God had for me. And I'm like, unbelievable. But I know for all of us, it's so easy to do. And so Joseph's in this spot where it's like, okay, you got this insight. Are you going to trust your perspective or are you going to trust God's perspective? And so if we keep reading, this is what he does. It says, when Joseph woke up, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded, and he took Mary as his wife, but he didn't have sexual relations with her until her son was born, which some of you may be thinking, TMI. This is all part of the prophecy, okay? That's why I wrote it. And Joseph named him Jesus. And so you got Mary, she's pregnant. Joseph, not the father. From everything that he sees, he's like, I'm out. An angel appears to him, gives him some insight. Do you want to trust your perspective or God's perspective? And what Joseph chooses, he chooses to obey. He chooses to trust a bigger perspective. And so one of the things I wrote down, one of the last things, is about fear, and it's this, is that fear is often the price of progress. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Fear is often the price of progress. Guess what? You overcome a fear. Guess what? You push through a fear. You get more fears. That's how it works. Anybody who's ever done something great, you know this. You know this. It was scary, and guess what? The fears don't go away. They actually probably become bigger. Like, we all get this, that the greatest vision comes with the greatest price tag. Sometimes the greatest pathway to our dream is through our greatest fear. And anyone who's like launched a business, you know this. You're like, it was scary. Maybe you had a really good job, but you're like, no, I think I need to do this. This is a conviction on my heart. Like, and then you got confirmation. You're like, I think I should do this, but it still made it. It was really, really scary to make the jump. And even since you've made the jump, you're like, it's still scary. Yeah, it's the price of progress. Anytime you create something and you put it out there for people to see, you launch a website, or you do a talk, or you write a song, or you write a book, there's a piece of you that puts it out and you're like, I wonder what people will think. It's scary. It's the price of progress. And sometimes it's not something great. Sometimes it's just doing something really hard and small, but it still leads to progress. Sometimes it's like having a conversation with somebody, even though it's going to be a really hard conversation. But you're like, it's scary, but it's the price of progress. Sometimes it's walking up to somebody that you know really well and asking them, their perspective of you. And maybe you have a good idea what it's going to be like, and it's not going to be good. And it's scary, but it's the price of progress. And there's somebody that understood this really well. It's actually a guy named Noel Ragney. And Noel Ragney, he's a Frenchman. He was born in France, grew up there, studied music in Paris, a wildly talented guy. And it was in the early 1900s. It was right around the time that Germany invaded France during the Second World War. And all of a sudden, he was put in a position where he could either die or join the German army. So since he didn't fancy one, he joined the German army. It was right around the time of the Nazis. And he was like, well, I don't want to be this. I don't agree with this. So while he's a part of the German army, he joins something called the French Underground, where they are going to attempt to overthrow the Germans. And he gets devised in part of a plot where he is going to lead a group of troops, German troops, into the line of fire from the French, where they're going to take down all the Germans and his troops. And it came to the day where he's ready to do this, and he's scared and he's nervous, but he's like, I believe this is the right thing to do. And so he does it, and he leads over there, and it works. The plan works perfectly. He actually gets shot in the process, almost dies. Ends up living out the rest of the war. And after the war is over, he moves to America. He moves to New York, where he follows his dream of composing music. And he starts writing for TV, and he starts writing for radio. And it's right around the time of another war going on. The war is called the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Soviet Union and America are at odds, and people are scared and they're nervous. And there's these two military powers, and you don't know what's going to happen. Is one going to launch a missile and kill everybody on our land? And it's a nerve-wracking time. And while he's in New York, where he remembered Christmas was like the happiest, jolliest time. It was Christmas time, and everybody was scared, and they were nervous, and they were staying in their houses, and they didn't know what to do, and they didn't know what to think. So Noel Ragney, here's what he did. He did what only he knew how to do. And he took his skills, his passions, and he said, okay, I'm going to write a song. And he writes a song that maybe some of you have heard today. It's called Do You Hear What I Hear? And as he writes this song, he talks about the fear that he sees of a star in the night sky with a tail that of a missile. And he talks about a shepherd boy and nobody pleading with a king, a military leader, of just let go, put the missiles down, or else children will die in the streets. And it's a scary time. It's a fear-filled time. And he gets it because he's been a part of war. And he's like, I don't want other people to feel this way. I want to give them hope. And so what he does is at the end of the song, there's a line that he writes. And it's a line that he leaves with. That says, the only thing that can bring peace is a boy. And he'll bring goodness. And he'll bring light. In the midst of fear, Noel Ragney, he's like, I'm going to leave you with hope. I'm going to leave you with something that I know is the light of the world, something where this boy that would bring peace, he'll bring light, he'll bring wholeness. One day this kid in the manger would be a kid on a cross, and he'd be the hope that we look to even in fear. You know what Noel Ragney had? He had this aharit perspective. There is a bigger thing going on, and there is a bigger story that's being told. And I need people to get this and to lean in on this hope, not on this fear. And so today, here's what I want to do. I want to leave you with a next step. And this is a next step I've taken a couple times in my life. And it's a scary next step, but I believe it's a pretty important next step. And what it is it's a prayer. It's a prayer that you can pray this week, that if you pray it, and it's a scary prayer, I believe it'll have a pretty major impact on you and on those around you. And it's this, it's God, anything, anytime, anywhere, with anyone, at whatever cost. It's a scary prayer. It's a prayer that takes an aharit perspective. It takes there's got to be something bigger going on, and God used me to be able to do that. And just like Joseph got an opportunity thousands of years ago to be a part of a bigger story and to play a vital role in it, we get an opportunity every day. When we pray this prayer, I just believe God's going to cash it in. And you're going to have an opportunity to feel the fear and be obedient anyway. If you lean in on this prayer, it's you saying, okay, God, give me an aharit perspective. Give me your perspective, not my perspective. It's going to be scary. I'm probably not going to want to do it. I don't know how to do it. But God, use me. I don't want to be motivated by fear. I want to be led by hope. I just believe we do this as a church community. It's going to impact Springfield. I believe some of you live that way, and it impacted our community yesterday at our Give Back event. How do we be led by this hope instead of this fear? So what I want to do is I want to pray. I want to pray that we can have this aharit perspective today. Lord, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for everyone in this room that honestly, it motivates me to live this way. When I could very easily focus on the fear that's right in front of me, how do I look to your hope that you've given us? How do every single day I wake up and say, I don't want to see things through my perspective. I want to see things through your perspective. Lord, would you show up even when I don't feel you? I know that you're there. I know that you're with us. I know you're Emmanuel, God with us. God, I pray today that all of us would be able to have that perspective, that we'd feel you this week. And give us opportunities to lean in on this hope. In your name, amen. Amen. Well, I would be remiss if we did not show a quick recap of our Give Back event yesterday and all the amazing things that happened. And so let's check it out.
Hey, what's happening, North Point? So excited to be coming to you from the Nixa location for our 2023 Give Back event. This is such an important event every single year, but this year we've been able to expand our capacity with our new facility, and so over 150 families representing over 450 kids. So to be able to resource those families to be the heroes for their kids this Christmas season is so incredibly important.
Hey, thanks Dream Center Campus for showing up and volunteering and donating gifts and everything. Without you all, we could not do any of this, so thank you.
North Point, thank you for being help and hope to our community. Whether you wrote a check or you showed up to serve at the event or you prayed over those who are coming in, you are an answer to prayer for our community. Thank you for your generosity. It's making a huge impact.
Man, Republic is so excited to be a part of an event like this. So if you're from Republic, public, and you participated, whether that's bringing, distributing over 800 bags of groceries to our schools, or bringing in dozens and dozens of goats to our public school system, or showing up, one of the 50 people that came from our public today. We could have done it without you. Thanks so much for being a part of this event.
Hey North Point, Kristen here from the Springfield Dream Center, and I just have got to give you a big thank you. Between Nixa and the Dream Center campus today, we are serving 900 kids for Christmas, and it is all because of your generosity. Thank you so much.
You guys are good neighbors, you're good friends to our community, and we're so thankful for all the shopping you've done, all the giving that you've done, all the preparation that you've helped with. You guys have all worked together, every single one of you. We've got over 250 volunteers here at the Nixa event today. So thank you for showing up this holiday season for the kiddos of our area.